Well, welcome, folks, to another in the series of Deepcrawl's SEO webinars. Today, a slightly different topic than what we normally tend to cover. Today, we're discussing ASO with Luis Bueno from formerly at Decathlon and now at King.com. Is that right, Luis?
That's right. I'm now at King. Yeah.
Yeah. Luis has been in SEO for 7-8 years, I believe, and has recently, in the last couple of years, switched over to. So, do you just do ASO now, or are you?
I only do ASO now, but also as a kind of side projects. I still work in SEO, but more for local SEO, so small projects, nothing big such as Decathlon.
Great. Okay. I'm always really excited. I always think that tech SEO is the really big, exciting niche thing, and then I remember that people do things like ASO and local SEO that I barely touch. So, obviously I've got the easy job. I'm just going to let Luis start, and hopefully we're all going to learn something. If you do have any questions, either drop them into the Q&A or into the chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered. So yeah, over to Luis.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Let me know, Chris, if you see.
I can.
My screen. Okay, you see the presentation now, right?
Looking good.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to the webinar, and thanks to Deepcrawl for inviting me. Today, I'm going to explain how to do an ASO audit of your app. I'm first going to do a short intro about ASO, and then we'll jump into the steps that you can follow to audit your app. I've tried to include as many examples as possible because I feel those are the best way to explain ASO rather than just talking about the theory. Actually, in ASO, there is not a one-size-fits-all formula. So hopefully those examples will show you the difference in strategies that you can follow. This is the agenda for today. As I mentioned, today we'll do first an intro, then we go into knowing your audience and also understanding better the features of your app or the app you're auditing. Then we'll go through the creatives and then the metadata, and we'll end with reviews. But first, let me introduce quickly myself. I'm Luis. As Chris mentioned, I'm an ASO specialist at King. If you haven't heard about the company, probably you have heard about Candy Crush, where King is the company that created that game. My background is in SEO. I spent the last 7 years working in SEO, both in agency and in-house. But 3 years ago is when I started in one of my previous roles to get more involved in ASO. And it's this year when I decided to move full-time into an only ASO role. This year, I also talked in Brighton SEO about ASO, and actually, this webinar is a bit of an expansion and an update of that talk. I've added more examples and new tips, so hopefully this is useful, even if by any chance you were there in Brighton this year in April. Before I start, I need to do this disclaimer. All the data and information in this document are based on publicly available information, and all the assumptions based on the strategy behind the app are based on my own experience and do not represent my employer's opinion. Finishing that, I like to start this kind of presentation giving you a good reason to stay until the end and listen to me. So here's what you are going to learn and get by the end of this webinar. You will learn the differences between ASO for apps and ASO for games. You will learn how to structure your screenshots, what are the ranking signals in Google Play and in iOS, how to ask for reviews, and finally, I will share in the chat a checklist so you can do your own audits. Okay, let's start with the intro. I wasn't sure of how many of you were familiar with the topic, so I thought it was a good idea to start with a short intro and a short definition of what ASO is. And here's what I think is a quite good definition. App Store Optimization, or ASO, is the process of improving the app visibility in the app stores, increasing the app conversion rate, and getting more downloads. So that's what people like me, ASO specialists, do. We are at the start of the funnel, and we try to drive downloads. Then it's up to the product team to deliver a good app or a good game and a good experience. Of course, we can collaborate with them and try to give them some insights to what we see is working in the App Store. but our main mission is to drive those downloads. So here's my view on the difference between doing ASO for app and for games. The first point is about the focus. In ASO for apps, the focus is mainly in the features. However, in ASO for games, the focus is more in the in-game experience and in the content. In terms of users, app users are looking to resolve a problem. However, game users are players, so what they are looking is to get entertained. In terms of engagement, app user, we want for the app user to use the app frequently, so they use the app every day. However, in games, what we are looking for is the extension of the period of time they are using the game. So the longer they use the game and they play the game, the better. In terms of how users search for an app and for a game, when they search for apps, they try to search for things like the business type, like car sharing, or our real life needs, because remember, they are trying to resolve a problem. So real life needs can be money transfer. In terms of games, they are player and they look more for the search genre, such as match 3 games, or a combination of the adjectives and a game, for example, farm game. And in terms of the conversion optimization, when we optimize conversion for apps, the focus is on the utility. You should explain to the user how how your app resolves a problem. But when we do the conversion for games, the focus is about entertainment. So we focus more on the games modes, on the characters, on the mechanics, the events in the game. So let's start now with the audit. And the first step of an ASO audit, or the first step I do, is to understand the audience of your app. Here's an example of how to answer that question, who's your app for? So I've taken this game, Mystery Match Village, as an example. Mystery Match Village is a matching puzzle mystery solving game. And when auditing the app, I try to guess the following. The first, the audience demographic. By playing the game, looking at the creatives and the reviews, you can get an idea of the target audience. In this case, I thought it's probably middle-aged women. Then you can use some ASO tools to understand which countries the app is downloaded the most and also is getting the revenue from. Then I look at the user motivation. So why do the players want to play? What does the game offer to them? In this case was to resolve the mystery, to solve puzzles, and to complete challenges. Very important is to look at the competitors. So I usually look at similar apps and again, read the reviews, look at their visual and try to understand their value proposition, because that is going to give you good insights about the whole category. So for this game, I use Supernatural City as a competitor example. Another thing you need to look when analyzing games is to look at direct competitors. So we should understand the category the game is, because the category will help us identifying trends and also common strategies, so we can stand out from the rest of the games. Here's an example for the puzzle games category in Google Play, and you can see that the majority of the icons for those games are using the character in the icons. So that's something that you should definitely test if you have a game in that category. Let's look at another example, but in this case, it will be an app called Fitness Coach. This app is a fitness app that gives you workout plans and also healthy meals recipe, but it's the same process. So in terms of the audience demographic, we can understand that it addresses young, sporty people, the markets they are in. We know US is the main one. The motivation, their user looking for health, real food, also challenges. And then in this case, instead of direct competitor, I went for a complementary app. MyFitnessPal may not be an exact competitor, but it can complement the app, and it's also very well known inside the fitness category. So it's useful to go through the different version of the app, how they've been changing and making an evolution of the app over the time to understand what is interesting about that specific category and about your audience. And also when you analyze an app, you need to understand if the app resolves a need. So they tell you in a screenshot, and they tell you that this app helps you to lose weight, to stay fit, to gain strength, and to build muscle. So the value proposition of the app is that it's a fitness app for all levels that work as a diet tracker and a fitness coach. Once you have a better idea of your audience, you need to understand or have a good understanding of your app features. Obviously, if it's your app, you have that very clear. But if you're analyzing competitors, the best way to do it is to download the app and use it and understand the features. So for this example, I've used Duolingo, the famous language app. And the first question I make is, what are the aim app features? So for Duolingo, we know that it's a free app, although it has in-app purchases and a premium mode. It allows you to learn more than 30 languages, and it uses gamification. The second question I do is, what does the app enable you to do? So we know that Duolingo allows you to track your progress daily. It allows you to interact with a community of students, and you can also participate in competition. And finally, you will get a certificate. For a game, the questions you ask here are a bit different. So I've taken Player Unknown Battleground as an example, the famous Battle Royale game. So we can see that asking about how is the in-game experience, in one of the screenshots, they try to explain you that, and they highlight the gameplay and how you can play versus big enemies. And it also shows the character in action. The other question you need to ask is, what is the in-game content? And they tell you that in these screenshots. The user, you need to think that the user of a game are players, so they really know how to play the game. You don't need to explain how to play the game. It's more important to highlight this type of content. In the case of Player Unknown, they show you they highlight the seasons and the events that the players can participate in. And finally, the last question would be, what's unique about the game? So this is the goal of this is to differentiate from others in the same category. Player Unknown belongs to the action category, and the way they try to make the difference or stand out from the rest is to strengthen that they have a big community of players that you can play against around the world. Let's jump now into ASO creatives. The visuals you have in your App Store listing create the first impression for the user. So apps should use them to catch your attention by analyzing icons, screenshots, feature graphics, and videos. We can understand if the app really catches the user attention. So let's start by the icons. The icon is the first element the user sees, and often is the only one, as it appears in searches and also in charts. For an app, the icons can go for different designs. They can make a contrast between the background colors and the logo, such as in a Snapchat. They can make visual associations, such as run with hull, and they can also play with the naming and the design, such as in count. For a game, there are also different types of icons that you can opt for. It can be a character base, so many games use the main character face in the icons, such as in Clash of Clans, the first one. They can also go for game elements, so rather than showing the character, you can put the focus on the elements of the game. Candy Crush is an example that shows the candy the players need to match to win the game. And it's also interesting because they include the logo of the company. And then you can go for a more branded strategy. So if your brand or if the brand of your company is big enough for players to identify it, one of the best strategies is to use that icon. So in the case of Grand Theft Auto 3, they use the icon and the name of the game with the same visuals and the same colors and style as they use in the console. So it's clearly it's easy to identify for the players. In terms of the screenshots are part of what we call the first impression, and that is part of the first assets a user see when they go to the store. In Google Play, for example, a screenshot can even have a higher impact on conversion than the icon, so it's quite important. To show you an example of the screenshot, I've selected Waze, the navigational app, as an example. In the first screenshot, Waze that use the same first screenshot and the same message in the first screenshot and the feature graphic, they opted for a landscape orientation, and they try to make the app user clear what is their value proposition. So they tell you that this app will help you to avoid traffic, to avoid tickets or fines, and to avoid an accident, right? So the value proposition is you will get to your destiny quicker and without any problem. In the second screenshot, Waze highlights two main user benefits of the app. The first one in the second screenshot is they highlight the speedometer, because that will help you stay within the limit and avoid tickets. And in the third and fourth, they highlight the ability of the app to find key driver locations, such as a parking or a petrol station. And finally, they also tell you why Waze is unique, what is different from the other apps, and something that can differentiate Waze from the other navigation apps is the ability to play music or podcasts without switching the apps. Let's take a look now at an example from a game. So I've taken Clash Royale and I've analyzed a screenshot for them. So in the first two screenshots, they tell you how is the game experience. Clash Royale used the first screenshots to state what the game offers. They tell you that it's a real-time multiplayer battle game where you can fight against players around the world and also with your friends. In the following screenshots, they tell you about the content of the game, which is what makes it different from the other games in the same category. So Clash Royale highlights the following unique selling points. They highlight the cards collection mode, so you can collect cards in there. They also highlight the rewards and the prizes you can get. And that message about the level up is quite interesting because it conveys a sense of progression in the game. And finally, they also highlight the events the player can participate in. After the screenshots, we can analyze the feature graphic, which is only available in Google Play. But it's something important because it impacts the conversion. The feature graphic can be actually treated as an extra opportunity to deliver your message, but it needs to be aligned, or it's usually aligned, with the brand and with the other visuals, such as the screenshots and the icon. For example, in apps, I like how the fast food apps use feature graphics because they are usually aligned with the other visuals in terms of the design and the colors. And they also show you very clear what the app can offer. So they tell you that they can offer food, especially fast food. In terms of the games, the feature graphic in the games is usually aligned to in terms of colors and design with the other visuals. The games usually use this element to reinforce their unique value proposition. So, for example, on the top, Clash Royale highlights the character and the battle mechanic. Subway Surfers, the one on the left corner, give you a quick sense of the run mechanic of the game. And then Pokemon Go focuses more on the brand, showing Pikachu, the main character, and the Pokemon logo. And finally, the preview video. The preview video is one of the elements that most impact conversion for the people who see it, because not all the users click on or see the video. But for those that see the video, it can increase the downloads by 20 to 30%. So the way I analyze it is, first, I look at how the video starts. Be aware that the first 5 seconds are the most important, and you should try to include your key message in those first 5 seconds. And also, you need to keep in mind that the video, for example, in Apple Store is play in mute. So the video should work well with and without the sound. And for that, it should use some callouts to give context to the visuals and not just images. Some of the mistakes that we usually see in these type of videos are first showing only your icon at the beginning of the video, because that means you will waste those first 5 seconds to jump into what's key about your app. Keep in mind that people won't see the whole video. So the first 5 seconds are the most important. If you use it only for your logo, you are kind of wasting that peak in attention. Also, you can experiment with different styles of different storylines in the videos, but it's useful also to have always a plan B in case your video doesn't get approved, because there are some guidelines you need to follow when doing an ASO video. It's not as flexible as doing ads, for example. And then a basic one is that you need to optimize for a smaller screen, because that's where your video is going to be seen. And that means that the text you use in there shouldn't be too small. And finally, we need to consider the differences between Google Play and iOS, because in Google Play, your video is a landscape orientation and it's coming from YouTube. However, in iOS, it can be portrait or landscape. So usually when I analyze a video, I try to split the structure in different what I call small chapters. So for Pizza Hut, I will play now. You will see that at the beginning of the video they show you the value proposition and the brand. Then they jump into one of the benefits that you can get free pizzas in the app. They will tell you also that it's faster to order a pizza. They reinforce again the value proposition. They show you a last benefit in terms of what are all the payment methods you can go, and they end, and that's kind of a classic structure, ending with a CTA saying that you can download the app. So I'm going to play the video now. Chris, if it doesn't work, the sound, let me know, but I think it should work. Cool. Oops. And now let's have a look at an example from a game. So I've used Apex Legends Mobile, and you will see how it's quite different, the style they use for games, because it needs to be more exciting. They also play with the voiceover, with the music, and compared to the video of an app, they don't show you exactly how it works, or they didn't show you so much the benefit. It's more about the in-game content, what is exciting, what is new in the game.
Don't get mad if I upstage you.
No matter where you try to run, I'm coming.
Believe the hype.
Coming for you.
It's a beautiful day. Let's do this, brothers.
You better find me before I find you. I'm coming for you.
You looking for a fight?
I'm coming for you.
Guys, look! We're all having a good time, especially me.
I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
Don't get mad.
And the next section is about the metadata. Before we jump into showing you some examples and analyzing some examples, we need to consider the differences between the App Store and Google Play. So remember that in App Store, the long description is not considered to rank your app, so you can be more flexible. You don't need to focus so much on keywords. The App Store subtitle shouldn't repeat the same keywords you include in the title. And then the keyword field shouldn't include the keywords that you have already mentioned in the title or the subtitle. And as a general rule, you don't need to include the keywords in plural. You can just include it in singular. For Google Play, the short description has been historically considered the second most important element after the title. However, lately the trend is more to use it for conversion rate optimization rather than to include many keywords. And that means that you can include there some CTAs or some attractive messages for the user to download the app rather than just adding keywords. To add keywords, usually ASO Specialist add it in the first line of the long description, because in this case, in Google Play, the long description does count for your rankings. However, in the long description, it's all about the density of the keyword. So there is a keyword density, and it depends on that keyword density. Google will consider some keywords as more relevant for you than others. We'll see an example later. So the way it works is that the first thing you need to consider to rank for a specific keyword is if the keyword is in the metadata. If it's not in the metadata, it's going to be very difficult for you to rank for that keyword, apart from obviously the branded keywords. If it is in the metadata, the second thing you need to consider is how relevant is your app is for that keyword. And that is based on where is it. So if the keyword is in the title, it will have a higher relevancy than if it's in subtitle or description. Then for Ajax, for example, usually it works better when there is an exact match keyword rather than variation of the keyword. One thing for App Store is that it doesn't always treat the same the keywords in plurals as the keywords in singulars, because the algorithm is not as advanced as in Google. So sometimes you need to do some tests and see if your keyword is ranking the same for both variations. And then, as I mentioned before, in Google Play, it's quite important the keyword density. And also the keywords that appears in the first line of the long description will have a higher relevancy. After that, here are the ranking signals that Google Play and iOS will use to evaluate which is your ranking for those specific keywords. So the first thing is the number of downloads from a specific keyword, and also the velocity of downloads, so how quickly you can drive downloads from a specific keywords. Then they will look at the overall average ratings that you have for your app, and then the keyword conversion rate, which means how many people downloaded the app after searching for a keyword, and also the keyword retention rate, which is how many people downloaded the app after searching for a keyword, and then they didn't uninstall the app, so they kept the app installed in their mobile phone. And finally, for Google Play, they also consider the app performance, and that means that your app doesn't have crashes, doesn't consume a lot of battery. Let's have a look at some example. So here's Babbel, which is another educational app to learn language. So one thing I will look is how long is the title and the subtitle. In this case, the title is 26 characters, but the limit is 30 characters, but I don't see a way to improve it in only just 4 extra characters. And then I will look if they repeat keywords in the title and the subtitle. In this case, they kind of do it because they use learning in the title and learn in the subtitle. This may be because they identify that in iOS, in App Store, there are differences between rankings for learn and from learning. But an alternative or a test would be to use something like speak French, Spanish, or Italian. Then in terms of the keyword field, so this field is not public, but we can try to guess what keywords may be included there. An ASO tool such as App Figures or AppTweak will help you understand what keyword the app is ranking for, and therefore what keyword the app has in this keyword field. So based on that, here's a bit of my guess. I think they could have included keywords such as study, speak of lessons because it's related, also free because there are some users searching for free learning apps. They may have included Duolingo because it's a competitor, try to rank for them, and definitely they included the other languages that they couldn't include in the titles and the subtitles, such as German, Portuguese, or Russian. In terms of when we switch to Google Play and we look at the short description, Babbel has used the short description to add the top languages that probably they know the users search the most for. In this case, about the length, the limit is 80 characters and they've used 77. So I think they've done a pretty good job there. When it comes to the long description, I try to analyze how they split or the different sections they may include. So they start by doing short opening, kind of ASO, so short opening, where they include some of the tier 1 keywords they want to rank for. Then they go about the app features or what they offer, and because they offer languages, they show you all the languages you can learn in there. Then they have a paragraph about the target audience. So they told you that the app is for beginners and also for experienced learners. And something interesting is they try to include there what I call institutional proof. So they tell you about the effectiveness of the app, and they tell you that they've partnered with the Yale universities. That they confirm that this app really works when you try to learn a language. On the right side of this image, you can see also the keyword density for this long description. So for example, they have a Spanish in a 2% keyword density, but if they would identify that Italian or German is growing in terms of interest, they will need to include more times, or they will mention more times that keyword to increase that keyword density and have a higher relevance. Be aware that it's not really about keyword stuffing, so you cannot include only that keyword. You need to have a good balance. And in terms of how high should be your keyword density, it depends on the category or the app. But usually what I do is I look at the competitors, understand what is the keyword density. My rule is never go above 5%. Okay, the last section, and we'll end here, are the reviews. So the reviews and the ratings are the most single data point affecting an app conversion rate. Here's a basic strategy to ask your user for review. The first step is where to ask, or the first question you need to answer is where to ask. You need to find the right moment to ask your user for reviews. That is what I call the joy moment. So it's a moment where the user is satisfied with the service your app provides, or if it's a game, they are enjoying the game. So for example, a good trigger to ask for a review could be when a user has completed a purchase and he's happy, then you can ask for a review. Then the second thing is when to ask. So you have identified already that your user has played your game for a bit and is enjoying the experience. What you want is to ask for a review in the least disruptive situation. For example, you wouldn't interrupt a game in the middle of a level to ask for a review. You will wait until the player completes a game, especially if it's a challenging game, and he is satisfied because he completed the level, then you ask for a review. Finally, you need to see, or you need to look for what are the options to ask, how to ask. So you have two options. The first one is the in-app rating prompt. So it's basically a pop-up, a window that will be displayed within the app to allow the user to leave the rating. And the second one is to send the user to the App Store. The inconvenience of this second methodology is that you are actually moving away from your app to the user, but also if it's a happy user, you will have higher chances of having a good review, and actually not just a rating, you will have a review with the text and the keywords in there. The triggers are used to choose when to ask the user for a review. If you apply a trigger at the wrong time, you are wasting an opportunity. So it's better to choose the right time to ask for a review. These are some of the most common triggers that you can use. The first one is based on action. So the user will see the request once they've done a specific action. For example, you can show the request when they have opened the app 10 times, because you know it's a frequent user. The next one will be based on duration. So the user will see the request once they have used the app or a game for a specific duration. For example, when they have been playing for 20 minutes. And the last one will be the user journey. This is a bit more complex because it's a combination of multiple events. An example could be when you show the request after a player has passed a level that he or she has been trying for several times. So the last time when they pass the level finally and they are satisfied, that's when you fire that trigger. Important too is what not to do. So there are some practices and triggers that is better to avoid. First of all, do not pay for reviews. Paid reviews or bots that some people use, leaving 5-star reviews that doesn't really make sense, could cause you problems with the app stores. Do not incentivize reviews, so do not offer anything in exchange of review because it's against the guidelines and you can be actually banned from the store. And do not ask at the wrong time. This is what it's called anti-triggers. So these are moments where you shouldn't ask for review. For example, you shouldn't ask for a review after you know a user has experienced a crash in the app. And you shouldn't ask for a review if the user said no to a rating or to a request for a review in the last 30 days. And quickly, last examples about reviews. I've taken the NBA app as an example. First thing to look at is the average rating. This is for iOS. The NBA app has a very decent rating, 4.8. And this means that user qualify this app as an excellent app. So we need to know that the user won't be keen to install an app with a rating below 4.0. And even an app with a rating below 4.5 could have or could be in a disadvantaged position if the category is full of high-rated apps category. The next one is to look at, or the next thing I audit and I look at is how the app answer the reviews. So in the case of the NBA, they reply both to the positive and to the negative reviews. In the positive review, note how they offer an alternative support channel to submit a request, because in this case it's a suggestion. And also they reinforce that message that they always work for a 5-star review, because remember that the user will have the opportunity to change the review and increase the rating. In the case of the negative, the first thing to notice is how they apologize, and they start apologizing to the user. They also communicate that that specific issue has been resolved. And again, they mentioned that they work to have a 5-star review in the hope that the specific user will improve the rating. Finally, when you analyze reviews, ASO tool will provide you with reports on density of the popular keywords in that reviews. So the goal here, or the task, is to identify them and analyze if those keywords that your user are adding in the reviews are keywords that you could your app could rank for. So for the case of NBA app, we can see that there are keywords such as league, games, or watch that definitely should be considered when optimizing the metadata for this app. And that's it. Hopefully you enjoy the presentation. I will share now also the checklist in the chat so you can have a look.
Great. Just while Lewis is doing that, just a quick call. We've got about 5 minutes left for questions. So I'll just call that out now. We do have a few questions. Lewis, I'll fire them straight to you now.
Yeah.
So Kurt and Prasesh are both asked about tools effectively. So one, what tools do you use for keyword research, and what tools do you use for analyzing audiences?
For the main ASO tools I use and we work for is one called AppTweak, which you can also work with them as an agency, but it's probably one of the best tools in there for ASO. They will give you all the keywords that the competitors run for, and you will also be able to search for some of the keywords. See, it's not exactly keyword volume because compared to ASO, compared to SEO, there is nothing like keyword volume. What they give you is a rank between 0 and 100, similar to Google Trends. So you can have an understanding of what is the higher keywords, and then you can monitor the keywords. There are other ASO tools such as Sensor Tower, what it was called before App Annie, but right now is Data.ai, and also App Figures. App Figures is another one that I've used, and I really like it. And actually, the App Figures blog and the AppTweak blog are two very good sources for to learn about ASO. And what was the other question about the audience you said, right?
Yes. What tools do you use for audience analysis?
Yeah, obviously for working in a company such as Kin, we have our team of UX and they do analysis and player insights. But as a developer, really, or if you are just starting with a small app, I don't really use any specific tool for audience analysis apart from looking at what the competitor do, try to understand my user, reading the reviews, and maybe trying to maybe using some tools, but just to create a kind of buyer persona, right? So just to make sure I take note of everything. But when you work for a big company, the best idea is to have some focus group or to interview your users so you can get a better understanding.
Cool. A couple of questions here that kind of go together. Chloe and Stan asking, so Stan asking, how do you track ranking, impression, clicks, CTR? And Chloe asking, do you use App Store Connect for reporting?
Sorry, what was the first question about the CTR?
How do you track ranking, impressions, clicks, and CTR?
Okay. So yeah, we use Google Play Store Connect and also App Store Connect for reporting. You can just use those tools, but if you use an ASO tool such as AppTwig, you will get access to an API, and they will help you to connect your reporting tool to their API. Through their API, you can get access to all the data in there. But yeah, in general, the two main tools for us will be Play Store Connect. You can see there all type of data in terms of visitors, acquisition, that's how they call installs, different traffic sources, different countries, the conversion rate. They even give you some benchmark versus competitors, and the same with App Store. The only problem is that, and that's a bit annoying, and that's a difference with SEO, is that those app stores, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, they made an update and they don't tell you exactly which is the traffic that is coming only from organic. So it's quite difficult to split the traffic coming from paid to the traffic coming from organic, because they combine together what they call search, and that includes paid ads and also user coming from just searching your app in the app stores.
Great. I think we've got time for one more, and I'm just going to ask this one because I think it's quite interesting. William Alvarez is asking, can you optimize in different languages based on the country where an app is available?
Yeah, totally. And that's a recommended best practices. But if I added another slide about that, it would take forever to do the presentation. But yeah, totally. It's recommended. It's called localization. What you need to do is to definitely localize your screenshots. So you have messages in there, you translate the languages. Also, because you can do experiments, you can do A/B test. You will need to understand what it works in one country. You can even create some in apps in Google Play. You can create a specific customer store listing just for a country. So you can create, because by default Google Play works by languages. So you optimize only for English, but if you want to optimize only for the US, you can create a specific customer store listing just for the US, because probably, obviously the user in the US, even if they speak the same language as people in Australia, they don't really look at the same thing, right? So yeah, definitely, that's a big practice, and that will take me for another presentation probably.
Great. We'll squeeze one more in. If you do have any other questions, I hope I'm not being out of turn, Luis, by saying his Twitter is on the screen there. Do feel free to ask him questions there. Last question, I've been wondering this as well. How often do you refresh keywords field and keywords and title, etc.? And I guess my question is, when you make one of those changes, how long should you leave it before you measure the efficacy of a content change in your listing?
It's something that is constant, really, and the process will go about it's constant because we work with AppTwig, and they monitor every day the different changes in rankings, right? So if they notice change in rankings, they will do optimization for that. Usually we have a look at that as an overall view monthly, but it depends on the effect or the change, right? You could see a big change in the first couple of weeks, and also it depends on the amount of users your app has and the market your app is in. The main market is usually US because that's the biggest market, so you will see the results there quickly than in others.
Cool. The idea of, as an SEO, of being able to make a change and see a difference in less than 2 or 3 months is very appealing to me. So we've hit that 45 minutes. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming. I say, if you do have any other questions, we covered most of them. If you do have anything else, I say, do feel free to give Lewis a shout on Twitter. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Lewis? If not, we'll say goodbye.
No, thanks to everybody for attending the webinar. Yeah, definitely write me an email or go to me on Twitter or search for me on LinkedIn. I will be more than happy to have a call with you and answer all your questions if I know the answer.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.